Hello everyone. Today it's time to talk about the Australian Senate after the 2019 election. It happened a couple of days ago. Very unexpected. I did not expect the results, but here we are. Let's talk about exactly what happened in the upper house. I will get to the lower house later on. And let's have a look at what the general prediction is for how it's going to look. So in Queensland, we've got three LNP, two Labor, one Labor, one Green, and One Nation. Um, Labor did awful in Queensland, as you know. This seat here is not completely chosen yet. We don't actually know if that's going to be how it is. But we can predict it's probably going to go to the coalition. They've got like more than half of a quota after getting two seats, and we probably think that preferences will end up going to the coalition there from the United Australia Party. And they got this kind of thing last time. And especially Labor's doing pretty bad. Green's got a bit of a swing towards them. Labor is only going to get one seat in Queensland, which is pretty awful, but hardly a surprise after those results on Saturday. Then we have New South Wales, South Australia, and Western Australia, which are all going to be the exact same thing, actually. It's going to be two Labor, one Green, and three Coalition. So the Greens did do pretty well this election. I think most of it was basically just on the back of some anti-Labor swings. But generally, they did a lot better than I expected. I thought that they would be able to get a seat in every state, but I didn't think it'd be this easy. I predicted the reason that they were going to do it is because of more of the fact that right-wing minor parties were going to kind of exhaust each other. They're going to get votes, and then they're not going to transfer votes from one to the other, and end up just going to go lower the quota. But no, they actually got I think their lowest state was like New South Wales, where they got something like 9%. But apart from that, they did pretty well everywhere actually. But the coalition did much better than anybody expected. They got a swing, I'm pretty sure, in every state towards them, even if it was just a couple of percent. If this was back with the old Senate voting rules, Western Australia definitely would probably still stay the way it is. It was very boring, but everyone expected Western Australia to be pretty boring. I mean, I did predict Palmer last time I did a prediction, but I'll talk about my predictions later on. Let's just look at what the results are. But under those old Senate voting reforms, you'd probably see here in Western Australia that'd be the same, but then this would probably be One Nation. New South Wales would also be One Nation, but because of the reforms, it makes it much easier for the major parties, especially the coalition, to get three seats if they get something like 36, 37%, which is what they did. Comparing it to the 2013 election, where it ended up with a lot of minor parties, got seats like Family First in South Australia, Palmer in WA, and Liberal Democrats in New South Wales. I mean, Liberal Democrats in New South Wales, that was part of other things, but still this just shows what the Senate voting reforms are going to mean, and this is especially the case in Victoria, where the coalition is also going to get B3 seats. It's the same thing. Now, this seat here that I will get rid of now, this is probably the most unconfirmed seat out of all of these. It is still probably going to go to the coalition. They only have about half a quota remaining, but once again, with these Senate voting forms, it definitely favors the major parties, especially the coalition, and they probably will get a bunch of preferences from Pauline Hanson, Darren Hinch, and the UAP, especially Pauline Hanson and UAP. If it wasn't for the Senate voting reforms, Hinch might have had a chance here. I mean, it might have been One Nation as well might have had a chance in that seat, but Hinch did absolutely dreadfully. I really didn't see much of him in the campaign, so I'm not incredibly surprised. I did predict that Hinch will get a seat there, but as it is at the moment, it's easily the most unconfirmed seat, and if the Senate voting reforms were did not change, that seat would definitely not go to the coalition. That would just not happen. So this is how the Senate voting reforms has definitely helped the coalition. After all of these, this is what we bought when when these reforms came about, and this is what I back in the day, back when they were changing, I believe in 2016. When these reforms came about, I was very much against them, and this is the reason why. Um, there's going to be a cases where it's going to favour the coalition, even if they really don't deserve a seat, especially if the minor party's vote is very high, like it is in Victoria, where this seat, probably should have gone to someone in some of the minor parties, but that's the way it is now. So Tasmania, as I predicted, one of my only predictions, I got Tasmania completely right. Lambie did get a seat there. Um, she campaigned pretty well, I think, and you don't have to campaign too hard in Tasmania because it's a small state. And yeah, status quo there. So in ACT, the Greens didn't do really well at all, and Coalition once again, like there was, I think there was a swing against the Coalition in the ACT by a little bit, but it definitely wasn't enough for the Greens to get a seat. So I mean, basically, what happened is that like people were predicting a swing away from the coalition around the country, and that this just did not happen. And in cases like Queensland is where it was a swing to the coalition. So, I mean, this is going to be expanded upon if I do a video about the House of Representatives, but like Queensland, there was a lot of polls indicating there was going to be a massive swing to the Labor Party in Queensland. So something like 3 or 4%, and it was going to be the highest swing in the nation. And that's why I was very comfortable at giving Labor that seat there and leaving it as it is there. But basically, what happened was the entire opposite. It was like a 3 or 4% swing to the coalition in Queensland. So that's how they ended up with a pretty similar result to last time. And this gives the coalition its best Senate since 2004. So that's 15 years ago. They can pass legislation with either only One Nation or Centre Alliance, and then we've also Australian Conservatives, which will almost always support them, and Jackie Lambie. Back in 2013, which is probably the Senate which was the kindest it's been in recent times. It wasn't that kind because they needed basically 6 out of 7 right of centre minor parties to pass legislation. They can pass legislation without the Greens, without Labor, without Centre Alliance. They could just go One Nation, Ozcon, and Lambie. So this seat, the seat isn't confirmed. It's probably going to go to the coalition, but like, damn, like this could have not been better for the coalition. Like I did not expect that it would be this good for them. I was saying for years actually that the coalition are going to struggle to get more than 2 seats in each state. Like I mean, WA, I think I've always said that probably it's likely that they could get 3 seats, but everywhere else I really thought that 2 was the most it's going to get. But then we have 4 states here where they earn 3 seats, and that's very impressive, very impressive. I did not expect that it was going to be like this, honestly. I did not expect the Centre Alliance to absolutely die. I thought they would still have a bit of a support. People knew who they were, I would have thought. They knew them as the Nick Xenophon team or SA Best back in the South Australian election. I thought people would be like, okay, I'm going to continue voting for them, and then maybe they would drop by about half. But no, they got absolutely slaughtered. I think they dropped to like 3%. I think they were below Hanson. I think maybe even the UAP. Absolutely killed, and I did not expect it to be that bad, and I did not expect that the coalition would be able to get 3 seats in South Australia. I mean, I actually thought there was a chance that Labor could get 3 seats in South Australia. To be honest, like, I mean, I'll just go on to uh, the ABC website and have a look actually. So yeah, so the Labor got 31%. I really thought they were going to get a bit more than that, but the coalition 37.3%. Jesus Christ! Like, I think there's meant to be a bit more of a swing in South Australia against the coalition, but they still did really well. They took back lots of that Centre Alliance vote into their hands. And I think the Greens picked up a fair bit as well. But yeah, absolutely would not have gone to the coalition if it wasn't for the Senate voting reforms. In South Australia, I think it probably would have gone to One Nation. One Nation probably would have done a bit better. I mean, One Nation didn't do too bad. They got 5% of the vote, but they only got 1 seat. So, yeah. Also, it was just a very, very good election for the coalition. Like if there's one party that won, it's the coalition. They didn't just win the lower house. They won it in the Senate. This is a great result for them, and they owe it to Malcolm Turnbull's Senate voting reforms. Absolutely. where you probably would have seen a Hinge here, a One Nation here, another One Nation here, and no, WA would have been the same. You probably would have seen this if it wasn't for those reforms, which is not nearly as good for them. Um, oh, and in Queensland, you probably would have seen like a Palmer or something, or maybe even Labor. Maybe the minor parties would have put Labor ahead of the coalition, and or I don't know. Maybe it really depends, but this is how it is. And what does this mean? Oh, I'll just get rid of all this crap. What does this mean for the Labour Party? Let's have a look at the Labour Party. So they have 26 seats. The Greens have 9, which isn't too different to what I was expecting. I think I was expecting something like so probably 27, and then Greens 9. They only did marginally worse just because of Queensland, but it's like their friends, like Hinch, who's their friend, didn't do well. Centre Alliance, who are their friends, didn't do very well, and that's what hurt them the most, and that's why they basically to block legislation they have to have a lot of people on their side. Very bad, very bad. Okay, so let's have a look at some of my predictions before. So I'm just gonna type in everything, um, what I thought was going to happen, and we'll discuss why that wasn't so. This was basically what I predicted. Maybe the Greens here, but throughout the campaign, I didn't really think so. So this is what I thought. I mean, I've already kind of explained it. Labor, I thought, would do better than they did in Queensland. I didn't think there'd be a massive swing against them, maybe to them. I thought the Centre Alliance would survive, and the Labor Party vote would be higher, more kind of equal to the coalition, and the Centre Alliance would um, win a seat on like something like 8% or maybe or something like that. WA, I thought that possibly One Nation will get a seat mainly because of the fact that they were first on the ballot, and that the coalition wasn't going to do so well, but they did pretty well in WA. I thought that Hinch would get a seat here because he's once again, like, it's the coalition vote isn't really that high in Victoria, but and so I expected though, and Hinch did pretty well in the Victorian election as well. So I don't know what happened, but he did absolutely abysmally there, and then Tasmania was pretty much what I expected. So um, um, honestly, like the Senate result is probably the most boring, sad, pathetic uh, coalition dominated Senate we have seen since 2004. And honestly, it really doesn't give me much joy to talk about it, to be honest. So, um, the Labour Party, if they do a lot better next election, it won't be incredibly bad for them, but they might choose to want to do something like a double dissolution. But the Greens can't really cheer because what's going to happen now? The Adani mine is going to happen. That's what's going to happen, and they can gloat about winning a seat in every state, but Adani's coming, and you can't stop it. Now that the Labour Party are in shambles. Thank you for watching, everyone. I will do a video in the House of Representatives. I acknowledge completely that I made a lot of really bad predictions, but I couldn't help it with how the polls were. And I might be back sometime to talk about a prediction for the Senate, maybe when things actually change. But for now, we have no idea what the polls are even going to indicate, if they're correct, and things are going to be pretty quiet for a long time. So I might make some videos actually about other countries other than Australia. There was an Australian election for quite a while, and maybe some thought experiments about the Australian Parliament and stuff like that. Thank you for watching, everybody. Oh, as for Clive Palmer, I feel like it was just kind of like a coin flip about how he would do, and he ended up doing absolutely abysmally. So, well, he did probably help the coalition win the election. So, you know, bye.